Are you ready?
Yes.
Hello, homeschool friends, and welcome to this episode of the Homeschool High School Podcast from SevenSistersHomeschool.com and brought to you by the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. I'm Sabrina, and I'm a little giddy because we're all in the same room.
In person.
On the same couch. Eye contact.
Wow.
It's
Amazing.
been so long since we've been on the same space together. Yeah.
Homeschool sisters gathered around the microphone together. It's so lovely. It's so lovely. And so we decided it was so lovely. We needed a lovely topic. And we want to reminisce a little bit about courses our kids actually liked. Because let's be honest, there are some that they don't like so much.
There are some that they really didn't like at all. But they did like some.
Yes.
Yeah. So who's going first?
Matt.
Well, let's talk about different kinds of courses that they did. So some of them that they liked, they took in a co-op setting or in a group class.
Mm-hmm.
And some they did kind of in an extracurricular format, like choirs or drama camps.
Logged hours.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some they did, they liked it because it was just a topic they explored on their own and earned their own credit. So there's not
we
one
had
right
some
way.
that used video, like DVD lecture stuff that we
Yes.
got.
Mhm.
And then did lots of discussion in response to that. As well.
Yeah, so lots of ways to do
Lots
it.
of ways.
So
There's
all
not
right.
one right
Not
way.
right. Not one right way.
So good.
Got that in first. Good. We're good. All right.
Kym wins the prize.
Oh no, Vicki said it first.
It's tight.
All right. So, well, human development is always the one that Kym and I start with because our kids were together in a co-op that did Seven Sisters. Vicki wrote this really awesome title, by the way.
Amazing.
Human development from a Christian worldview, and they just had a blast. And we were able to do so many fun activities from, from the curriculum.
Yeah, and I would say we had a blast too.
We did have a blast as moms.
Chime in if you had different, but I feel like we have reflected that that actually built new connections in our relationships with our teens. Because they started thinking about us as teens, that we had actually been teenagers.
You mean my mother was a teen?
Yeah, and wow, what was this like for you when you were a teenager? And someday I might be in your shoes, and how I think I might have parented myself, or just some of those really, really interesting questions that don't have to go that deep, but some of our kids were deep thinkers, and that really helped those of our kids who weren't as deep thinkers. It kind of helped
to dig in more.
Help them explore.
Yeah, and I think they saw us as still having insecurities, still having areas where we really wanted to lean into personal growth.
Yeah.
And I think that was a surprise for them.
Yeah.
And I would have thought that I had those kind of conversations a lot with my kids, but apparently it didn't really connect until we were working on the coursework together, and then it opened that door.
Yes.
So that was a big one.
Yeah. We were open to those kinds of conversations. I mean, if you're not as open to that, you could do it a little differently, but we not only, the questions in the book really became springboards for really deep, good conversations. But if we didn't want to have that kind of experience, we could have just had the questions in the book. And
it could have been simple, or y'all made it a discussion. And the kids did activities with it, didn't they? Act out some of the age group things. I think we used to have some videos of that.
So much fun with toddler and preschool stuff, and they had to act all of it, and it was hilarious.
It was really
but
fun.
It was also something that Jonah will still refer to. So is this parallel play, Mom? Or and he's 25 now, and he still loves to pull that out.
It is really funny how that created really, really strong memories. Very much so. Yep.
One of my kids will pull out old words from that, like, oh, we have object permanence.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So one of the ones that my youngest really liked, and I think your youngest also, was philosophies. And they used
the 4 questions. Oh man, was that a winner?
Yeah. And one of our good friends. Oh, he did the other philosophy. Go ahead. Sorry. Connor did.
Oh, did he
World
like
History
that
and
one?
Philosophy.
World
Yeah.
History and
Yeah.
Philosophy?
Yeah.
So and that's for kids who like to ask questions, to give them a framework for asking questions and what kind of questions to ask. And it's okay to ask questions. Philosophy was really good for those kids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the tone of that book. So that's by Dr. Micah Tillman. And his tone in that book was so, it made Jonah feel respected. It made him feel like the author of the curriculum had an attitude like he's discussing this stuff with me. Not that he was talking down to me, but that I was almost at a peer kind of, and he felt so grown up doing that course.
It was a grown up feeling. Yeah.
All right, let's see. So now for something completely different. I know that my oldest, who is still a writer to this day, loved the various kinds of writing we did, but in particular, you taught in a co-op setting, and they created like another world with myth fantasy.
Fantasy. Yeah, they used in the Seven Sisters Myth Fantasy, which we were creating in that generation, the process that J.R.R. Tolkien and Lewis used for the Chronicles of Narnia, and Tolkien did with Lord of the Rings. There's a myth fantasy process, and you create your own sub-creation, your own world with your own peoples and all that. And I had a blast reading what those young folks came up with, like watching them make maps and ideas and people.
I think I still have all of my kids' maps from whenever they did that, because I thought the maps were so cool.
When we got to teaching that in the homeschool classes for the umbrella school, sometimes we would get young fellas who had been trained it's not cool for guys to like to write, and when they got to the maps, they all of a sudden light bulb came on, and even the resistant ones were enjoying, and then they ended up writing all of them a 5-page short story. So it's not threatening, but then they had the guts if they wanted to go on and build something bigger.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Neat stuff. I remember when your kids did that, and my son did that, and that was not his bent at all. But I remember it being a struggle in the beginning, and then I remember him going like, "Okay, I can do this.
I got this map thing."
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Then outside of textbook courses, all kids need electives. And my kids, hand down favorite, my younger kids, when this came available, was drama camp. Oh my goodness! Pointing at Sabrina.
My favorite too.
The weeks that life had meaning. Is that what they called it?
Some of the students dubbed it the weeks when life has meaning.
Like, what are the other weeks?
No pressure.
No pressure. Oh, my drama camp was a blast. We would take between 20 and 30 kids, and we would create. I would have written a script that was very, very tailorable to how many people we got and what their personalities were like and how much they wanted to dive in. And it was okay to have very little stage time and very little to say, but there was nobody who was walking scenery, and we really leaned into the whole, we're telling a story to our audience, and we're helping our audience think about characters and people and relationships and ideas and questions and hard things. And oh my goodness, I mean, they would go deep with it. It was so cool to see.
Loved it. And the way drama camp, the way you ran it, is everyone was part of it, and teens learned good life skills like civility and respect for each other,
encouragement, and how to give feedback in appropriate ways, honest feedback, but in respectful and edifying ways. And and then they were working on public speaking skills, and they were working on time management skills, because they had things that had to be memorized and costume pieces that had to be created, and we were working all of that into a schedule. And I think they did a lot of good work.
And one of the most important life skills was they learned to reapply.
Oh my yes, reapply.
We're talking deodorant here, people. We're not there yet.
It was a fairly small space with a lot of teenagers,
and we would do dance things.
And there was a definite need for deodorant, and once early in the morning was really not enough. So they had their deodorant with them, and we would just announce to the entire cast, okay, reapply.
Right. And instead of an embarrassing thing, it just became a
bonding.
this is what we do.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And this is a way that we look out for each other because,
my kids actually talked about drama camp yesterday.
Get out.
Absolutely. 2 days ago, we were having dinner with a friend whose daughter did drama camp with your son and yours and mine, and they were talking about drama camp memories, and it just came up how precious it was and how it's still, they not only did the drama and did all that other stuff, but they dug deep on relationships. They really did. Formed really deep stuff and learned a lot about themselves and each other.
Yeah, and that in that culture of civility, even the kids who might feel uncomfortable, shy or feeling awkward, they all learned how to respect each other. And that was, I think, not just because there's drama camp, but the leadership made a culture of civility. And
that was the intention. Well, and we had an added bonus that a number of years we had kids who were involved who did not feel confident to go and get involved in community theater anywhere, whatever, because of being on the autism spectrum, having verbal processing issues, whatever. But they felt safe enough to come and be involved in drama there. And then there was also this beautiful opportunity to learn, how do we work with people who are wired very differently than we are, and how do we look out for one another, and how do we all reach the same goal together but have to come at it from very different directions. So that's some of what my now adult kids will still mention every once in a while. That was really that was a step into adulthood for them. And then in the workplace and everything afterwards, they realized, I'm fine with this, and I see people around me who can't figure out how to navigate the situation. But this is not a big deal. I know how to do this. This is, and we can talk and we can find a way to work together. And so
nice.
Good memories. Music, choir was a big deal for all of our kids.
All of them.
And a lot of them were involved in a madrigal group too, and did competitions and
Renaissance fair, did the whole costume.
I was Marie Kondoing some old homeschool material, and I found the Renaissance costume for my younger two from the madrigals days, and I go like, and those were, we were so fortunate in our part of the country that there was a large support group that could find these opportunities for the kids, or get together a body of kids. They were in a choir, the not madrigals, but the big choir, maybe 50 kids or something.
At least.
Up to
there were some, there were some, some of the years that my kids were in, it was in the mid 70s. It was a large group. And they got to compete against other choirs and actually adjudicated events and really the whole process.
And that was, so they got to sing and have fun, and it was enjoyable, but also the competition experiences, which were good for them to do. So
well, and then for something completely different, we used stuff from the great courses.
That was a lot.
And those are ways to get really high level instruction in something on a DVD. Somebody's doing the teaching for you. And we did anatomy and physiology, and we did a nutrition course. And they were things that we were like, well, we could do this out of a textbook, but we were also getting near the end of our kids' high school careers, and they were ready for some other instructors. They were sometimes your kids get tired of you. That's okay. Sometimes we get tired of our kids.
Well, in that case, also with the great courses, they were nice because they were like very, very respected people in their field, but they were not plugging through a textbook. And so for our kids who didn't need, like, they weren't going into medicine or nursing, they didn't need a textbook credit. They needed something that was valuable to their personal lives. So they got quality instruction you didn't have to do, and they enjoyed it together, right?
And they had a particular application. Like, we didn't get like a generic anatomy and physiology. It was more like personal wellness and fitness kind of thing, because some of the kids were really into fitness and the nutrition. So it was a sports nutritionist who talked general stuff, but also stuff that applied to them. So it was, it felt very tailored to where they were as well. Absolutely. This is not exactly a course, but one of my favorite things we ever did was a reader's theater, like a read aloud of a play.
it was part of the language arts credit.
Right. It checked off a book, or, in that case, a play.
Yeah, we did the Crucible.
The Crucible, sitting around Sabrina's living room. And it took something that might have otherwise been more challenging or more dry or more whatever, and it made it really fun.
Yeah, that was neat. That was really neat.
Good time.
Yeah, we included good snacks too. That was
always. That was necessary. Yeah, we did. With a group of families, we would do some of the Shakespeare's plays. Okay. So once a year, get together, and the grown-ups would participate, and the teens, and as down as young as the kids were interested, and they weren't looking for a production. We're just reading around in a relaxed and fun way and experiencing a really geeky fun thing. Well, but boy, the snacks were good.
Oh, the snacks, yes. Well, and then one step up from that, there was 1 year, 2 years, I don't know, in the umbrella school, where we took Reader's Theater, but we did it as a more formal Reader's Theater. So we dug into a particular play. We cast it so that it wasn't just reading around. It was individual actor reading, and had them read it as actors and rehearsed it, but never required them to memorize the whole thing and to actually perform. And we put them on stools across the stage, and we did a nighttime performance, and it felt like a performance.
It did. It really did.
So we did several.
And some of those kids took that, the performance Reader's Theater, and went to the ACSI speech competitions with that.
I forgot about that. So speech, that was another fun
course. You wouldn't think speech would be fun,
right? Most people think, but it wasn't scary, and it wasn't dry. It was really fun.
It was such good experiences, and the kids never complained about
because they did it together.
They did it together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So another completely different is my daughter was interested in photography, always had been interested in photography. So we tried, here's this resource, and pretty quick she just outgrew what a mom could provide. So took her down to the local community college that had a good photography program. And when she graduated high school, she also graduated with a certificate in photography from the community college, which earned her extra scholarships in college because she went in as a photography major. But she got, in that setting, it was, community college is small, so you get a lot of attention, such good mentoring. And so really opened doors for networking and learning specific skills. So community college was was her favorite thing.
That was great for her.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So none of us have really talked a lot about STEM stuff because for the most part, our kids were not
more on the artsy side.
But there were things that by doing them in co-ops. So we did a couple of years with a couple of my kids. We did science with a textbook on our own, but joined with other people to do labs.
Oh, yes.
And cooperative labs were some of the courses that my kids really loved. I don't know that they loved the bookwork in the chapters and the questions, but they loved the labs.
Oh, yeah. We moms very often would get together like a monthly major long lab session and set up stations. And the kids would cycle through and do their lab reports and all that, but have all these different experiences with the moms. And so we had fun with it too. And and our beloved Stacy Lane Clendaniel would generally be the one who would take the kids out in the parking lot and burn or blow something up.
That was like one of the most fun stations was when you knew you were going outside to the parking lot. You were going to get to blow things up.
The only time I ever burned something up, I almost burned somebody's house down, and that was totally by accident.
It's not good.
Having metallic marbles and red cabbage boiling on the stove at the same time. I can't remember exactly what happened, but it was not good.
It wasn't good.
Okay.
Nobody got hurt. That was a good thing.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there really can be courses that 10, 15, 20 years later, your kids are going to look back and say, do you remember the such and such? That was so much fun. And if you're looking at next year or you're looking to make a change mid-year or whatever, it's one of the questions you should ask yourself. Are my kids loving anything that they're doing this year?
Oh, yeah.
They don't have to love all of it. In fact, it's almost impossible for them to love all of it.
Absolutely.
But they should love something every year.
Definitely.
They should love something every year. And there should be something in there that is making your heart sing.
Yeah. I was going to say, you too. Yeah. One of the things that Vicki did for us is my kids were really into ice hockey. So the girls were playing hockey all the time. And so they had plenty of like hours. They logged their hours, so they got their phys ed hours. But Vicki said, wait, you're a captain and you're an assistant captain. What are you doing? Whatever. And so they actually had like a sports leadership credit. So I'm sure if they were sitting here, that would be among their top favorites too.
They leveraged what they were learning.
Yes.
Exactly.
And got a credit out of it.
Yeah. And that's why we talk about capturing the learning that's going on for the transcript. You don't school to the transcript, but you look at the learning that's taking place, and then you find words that will capture that for the transcript. Because your girls learned so much in the way of leadership there, so much more probably than if you had ordered them some leadership curriculum and that deserved a place on the transcript.
One more absolutely different. My youngest, I think it was my youngest, yes it was, he got interested and he was asking questions, like where did church music, because he was in a non-denom kind of setting and he was on the worship team. Why do we play this music? And so we said, okay, this year you do your APA research paper on the history of church music. Was church music always a chorus and a verse that you could play in, the key of C with 4/4. And so he got so interested and turned into a major long paper, earned a credit in the history of church music because he was interested in it and he explored it and he enjoyed that. Yeah.
And that was an individualized learning experience.
Yeah. Not a class. Really, it was just his. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So there we go. All kinds of things.
All kinds of things. Stuff. There's not one
right way.
Never. We should do a follow-up on favorite field trips.
We haven't talked about that in a long time. We should do.
Yeah.
All right. So we hope that you are loving something in your homeschool, and we hope your kids are loving something in your homeschool,
and that you're loving someone in your homeschool.
Yes,
absolutely. And if you need some ideas and inspiration for other things to try that maybe you would love, well, there just happens to be a whole lot of curriculum at sevensistershomeschool.com. And I don't think we published anything that we hated or thought was boring.
Definitely not.
Well, that's because our teens let us know about it. Yeah.
That honestly is one of our brand distinctives. Anything that you're going to get at Seven Sisters, it was created out of homeschooling families, and it's all been, to say it was beta tested is not even the exactly right word, because it grew out of what was working well and what our kids were loving. And so there's no busy work and there's no dry eye rolling whatever stuff in there. And so if you need some inspiration for a course that your teen might love, sevensistershomeschool.com. And as always, you're going to find encouragement and inspiration and probably some laughs, especially if the three of us are in the room together with one another. But always find something, we hope, that's going to be a blessing to you on the Seven Sisters Homeschool High School podcast.
Yes.
And we are very grateful, as always, to our sponsor network who carries us, the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. So tune in for another episode, and thanks for being here.
And thanks, Seth, for editing.
Yes.
Talk to y'all next week.
Have a great one.